Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Music Publishing Podcast. I'm here today with Rose Marshack, a musician and professor. Hi, Rose.
Hello.
How's it going?
No, dead air. Yeah. So
So,
what can I do for you?
oh,
I'm very honored to be on your podcast. I feel like talking about how I met you, but did you
oh,
have something to,
well, I was just gonna say how we met. I'll let you take that.
yeah, well, somebody told me you got to bring your music business students to see this. You're an alum, right, of ISU,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think it was not at the right time either for our class. We had to come
Hmm.
in the middle of your class, I remember, but I was
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
or we were there before or something, but I was just so taken with you've got this amazing attitude, so positive, and on top of, and so supportive of a scene.
Mm.
And that's really, really important to me. You're supportive of your fellow musicians, and you have this amazing publishing company, and you're helping people like this. But to me, the support of the scene was just so. It just really spoke to me. So I love when my students get exposed to something like
Mm.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. I want them to understand. I don't know how people grow up these days. I don't know if I know that they're taking lessons, they're learning the
Hmm.
violin, maybe they're in competitions,
Hmm.
music competitions, whatever. They're competing for first chair, whatever they're
Hmm.
competing for. And we don't really talk a lot about our scene or our fellow musicians. And maybe you do kind of, because you're playing in orchestras and everything
Hmm.
like that. But when you get out into when you get to college, at least, that's where I want to give an experience. I want people to understand, yes, there are 3 record stores on the main street in Normal,
Hmm.
Illinois,
Hmm.
and they're all friends. The owners
Hmm.
are all friends with each other. And people, and so there's a scene and we want to support it.
Yeah, totally,
So
totally.
that's a big, big thing in my background. Okay.
Yeah, I think support is just huge for just getting yourself out there. If you're helping other people, they're probably going to help you right back, and you
Yeah, yeah,
foster this
yeah.
great sense of community. um, yeah, that was 2013 when when we first met. I was on campus at Illinois State University for the premiere of an orchestra piece that I have, my LGBT suicide thing, and I knew that I wanted to. I've been writing the composer's guide to doing business for a while, and I knew I wanted to start speaking a little bit. So I worked with Pete Gaither, who at the time was one of the associate deans, and set up this talk. And I forget if it was during it was somebody in the theater department. It was like their class time, and so
Yeah,
their class was a part of it.
yeah,
And then you came in with your music business students. That was a lot of fun. My making a career in the arts talk.
yeah,
And
yeah. It's fantastic.
yeah, and it was
Um,
fun talking to your kids again this past February.
and the best part, okay, so yesterday was my first class, right? So I
Oh,
was meeting
nice.
my students for the first time. We went through 28, I think 28 students this time. Some of them are arts technology majors, others are music business majors.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, and there's a lot of pushback now on what they call Chilibus Week, where
Mm.
they're this year they said, hey, don't just go through the syllabus and let them go early. So I was thinking, oh, well, I'm kind of torn, because I don't want to be that professor who starts teaching the first day. Oh, no. And I don't want to kind of, not go over my syllabus. So
Hmm.
we went through all this, and we did introductions, and the 28 students in the room, and I wrote 5 different things that they had to talk about on the board. So it was, and then I was like, oh, the guys in the right side are going to be looking at their machines by the time we get all the way to the left side, whatever. But it turned out to just be so fantastic because there's 28 completely different people sitting in front of
Hmm.
me, and I need to understand what they know and what they care about in order to
Yeah,
teach them.
yeah,
So,
totally.
and this is, and I can go on. I'm trying to get to a point here. At the end, 2 students came up to, and I should have gotten their names. 2 students came up to me and said, "You have to meet this guy called Dennis Tobensky. He came and spoke last year." And then I was like, "Really?" you know, and because I was just getting ready to say, I have to get you to speak in my music business class again. They were just all about you. And I said, I'm going to be on his podcast tomorrow. And it was very exciting.
Nice.
But that happened at the end of the whole class.
That's pretty cool.
So it's come full circle.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But so now to go completely off on another tangent, because I have tasked myself with furthering the canon of punk rock, of the punk rock movement. Do I have this is the Bible of how the punk rock movement fits in with history. This talks about Dada and stuff like that, and Situationist International and modern art. Okay.
Nice. What's the title of that one? Because this will end up as just audio only at some point. So we know for the audio feed.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. All right. So this is Lipstick Traces: A Secret History of the 20th Century by Greil Marcus.
Nice.
And it's really, really interesting because I didn't know about the Situationist International movement and how it sort of, you know, it's the lineage from it describes a lineage from that through punk rock to the, you know, crazy bands like the Sex Pistols and stuff. But I was going to talk about, you were talking about a scene and giving back to a scene. And if you are good to some people, that, you know, they will be good back to you. And that reminded me that we had this thing called band karma when we were on tour back in the in the 90s. Let's just say the 90s, all the 90s. And we said that if a band or a group was coming through our town, we would house them and be very nice to them and talk, you know, listen to them talk about the people in their town and what their town is like. And then that would build up our karma in such a way that when we went to their town, there would be a nice place to stay. And we were staying on people's floors and stuff like that. It was very, very DIY. So I'm trying to figure out why that's important and how that fits in. Because I'm old enough now and experienced enough now to know that it is important. I just have to explain it to other people. So, you know, it's interesting. So I'll give you a little background about me. I'm a classically trained pianist and violinist, and I play the closest I ever got to playing violin in public was playing in the University of Illinois Orchestra. And I was very lucky to get in that because my major is computer science in the School of Engineering. So my background is computer science. And that's what I studied at U of I, and it's very, very interesting time to be studying computer science at U of I back then, because that's when the internet was born. Yeah. It was really, really cool, among other things. But we didn't talk about that in our classes. We had very, very theoretical classes about how to optimize code and how to write code and very low-level languages and chip architecture, and I loved all that stuff. And it had nothing to do with music. So I graduated I ended up with 2 undergrad degrees in different aspects of computer science and math. Nice. And working in a flight simulator company. This has nothing to do with music. But at this time, I was in a rock band. And I noticed that I said violinist and pianist, but I played bass guitar in this punk rock band. And we started out, and the reason that I could play bass is because I guess I have perfect pitch, and with a punk rock band, you don't really have to compose that much on the bass. You have to hold it together. Your function is to be the framework. There are all great stories about how I was allowed in the band by everybody except who would become my future partner. But anyway, so we were playing punk rock. We were composing punk rock songs in the late 1980s, and this was an interesting time to be doing that. And other groups were traveling around the United States and Europe by themselves, doing everything by themselves. Putting out their own records and their own CDs and their own cassette tapes, and buying vans, cheap vans, and just booking shows themselves and driving around and meeting other bands and making very, very interesting music. And my friend John Fine, who just wrote a book about this, says, I think there's a quote that says, with absolutely no worries of becoming famous. We all this whole scene had absolutely, it's better than that even. It's a great quote, and I wish I had it. So we never had to worry about that we would become popular ever, because it was pretty avant-garde music. So I did this for a while, and it ended up to be a certain time where major labels were starting to look for independent rock bands. So we ended up on a major label. We ended up putting out lots of records on independent labels, but then we ended up on Reprise, on Sire Reprise, which is part of Warner Brothers. And I had a lot of experience working for them. And during that time, MP3 sharing started happening. So that's when the music industry started kind of crumbling, right? So and there was a band called Metallica that was yelling about this and saying, people are stealing our music, and we're not getting paid. We're gonna lose money. And meanwhile, Metallica, you're getting 10% of your sales. The record label's taking the rest. You shouldn't be complaining. But we were one of the bands that said, well, people are trading our MP3s. Music is not, recorded music is not going to be worth what it was once worth. What can we do now? So we sort of decided that, well, movies, digital media, games, we sort of started composing different things that we would put on our CDs, and we created these enhanced CDs.
Nice.
And that's what we put out, an enhanced CD on Warner Brothers called RTFM, and I programmed that. I remember our A&R representative going, well, you guys are, would you like to put out an enhanced CD with all kinds of computer stuff on it? And I remember saying, yes, that would be awesome. People would love that. And he said, good, well, you're going to do that, and you guys can do that yourselves, right? Because you're all computery and stuff. And I was like, yeah, of course I know how to do that. And then we had to figure out how to do that. So I sort of branched off into multimedia for a while while I was, and I did some multimedia even for Warner Brothers. That was kind of nice. Then I went back to grad school to learn art, which was absolutely different than what I thought it was. I thought art was making stuff look beautiful, but it turns out that's not what art is. That's design. So and I worked, then there was a sort of segue where I worked in virtual reality for a while. I worked, there's a couple of virtual reality domains at U of I. It was called The Cave. And it's interesting to talk about this now, because actually I think it's time where people are actually going to start using virtual reality. But back in the 90s, it was like nobody, here, put on these $100,000 glasses and you'll see fish swimming around you. Look, isn't that neat? Oh, we better create some art with this. Oh, look, I've got a virtual orchestra in space, but it's, it costs $500,000 to make, and you can only see it when you come to U of I and go to this special room that people have a key for. Enjoy, but I did that for a while. And then I was rescued by Illinois State University and brought to this heavenly place where I could teach people.
Nice.
And so that's the short story.
Nice. So you teach both arts tech classes and your music business, right?
Yeah. I got an email from the wonderful Matthew Smith here, who's a professor at ISU. And he said, hey, there's a position open here. You should come apply. And I was like, no, I'm happy here. I like Champaign. I'll stay at U of I. And even though I'm kind of a toady, and he wrote again, please come. And then, we're looking for somebody who can teach arts technology and music business. And I remember thinking, well, I can't, oh my goodness, who would do something like that? I probably could do that, but I don't know. This is a great story. Okay. So this story is entitled Why Music is Important. So I had a baby and I was fat. And so I decided I better go jog. So I went to one of those places, those 24-hour places with machines that you jog on with TV sets in front of them, right? So I was jogging. I was like, okay, I'm going to jog. And oh my God, I hate to jog. I hate to run. I hate any of this stuff. I hate exercise. So I'm jogging, and like, 25 seconds into me jogging, trying to lose weight, I decided this is the worst moment of my life. I can't stand this. And I have to jog. And I looked at the little TV set in front of me, and it said I had to jog like 29 more minutes, in 60 seconds or whatever. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I persevered for the 30 minutes of jogging, and then I went home, and I was like, what am I going to do? And then I thought, wait a minute, headphones, MP3 player. I should bring music next time. I'll bring music when I jog. I've heard that helps. So the next time I went jogging, and I was, halfway into it, I was listening to some music, and it was like the sun came shining down on me, even though there's no windows in this place. Music is the great, just imagine you're like jogging for the first time, the second time in like 10 years, right? And you're listening to music, and what happens to you? You get what's called the runner's high or whatever, right? And I feel so amazing. I love this song. I love music. Music has been a part of my life for my whole life. It's so important to me. Oh my goodness. I should probably help other people spread music around.
Mm-hmm.
So then I came back, and I looked at that email, and I said, maybe I should apply for this position. And then I thought, oh, well, I would have to teach all different types of music business. So I went to the library. I went to the music library at U of I, and I said, are there music business books here? And they said, here they are. And I can look behind you, and you have on the screen that I'm looking at you, I see like 100 books behind you. It looks beautiful. And that's how many books there are at U of I in the music library. There's like a ton of music business books.
Nice.
So I like grabbed them all out, because as I tell my students, you can get free books at the library. They're free. And you don't even have to read them all the way. So I walked out with armfuls of books, and I started reading. And how would one teach music business? Mm-hmm. And that's that short story. Did you? Nice. What was the question again?
Oh, just what you.
Yeah. What do I teach? Oh yeah. So my first day, I walked into the class. And I thought, well, I know all about being a rock star. I'm going to teach these kids how to navigate being on a major label, even how to put out their own stuff, how to get a job at a major label. I know all about the rock business. If somebody asked me about classical music, there's one music business, classical music book, class or something like that. And I had read that too. I was all ready. So I walked in, and I was like, all right, you kids, how many of you want to learn how to be a rock star? And I looked, and there's like, people were just kind of like looking at me like, what? And there was like one kid with like a nose ring and an earring and like a mohawk in the back, and he like raises his hand, me, I want to. And I was like, well, what do you guys do? What do you all play? But he played trombone in this class. And they had no desire to be a rock star. They wanted to know, how am I going to make a living as a trombone player, just in case I am not the principal trombone player of the, the most major symphony in my town. Yeah. How am I going to make, and my parents want me to have a job. How am I going to make money? So, okay. Oh, practical music business, like how you actually will make a living with what you love. I can teach that. That's wonderful. Thank goodness. Okay. So the next year I came and I was ready. Okay, how many trombonists do I have? It was all singer-songwriters the next year. Everybody wanted to know how they're going to make a living with their singer-song. Then there's a year of all music producers. And when I say music producer, now I mean hip-hop beats. There was a year of all hip-hop beats. Every year is different. Every year, and my goodness. And, one day I had somebody talk to me about a music school that teaches little kids, one of those music schools, like in a mall in Chicago. It was Music Matters? I can't remember what the music school was, but it was a school where little kids go. They don't just go to learn to have their violin lessons. they go there and they have violin lessons, and then they have trumpet lessons, and then they can pick up any instrument.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a playground. And I said, oh my goodness, that's like another life-changing thing that I learned about the
Yeah.
music industry. Like, look at what you can do for kids if you are thinking about the different things that you can bring to people, and you can make a living at that too, I think.
Yeah, totally.
So to me, I don't know, to me, that's like the pinnacle of teaching music business, is if I could have these people come and talk to people and have my students realize, this is a new way that I can teach younger kids about music and how to make it.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Nice. Now, what are some of the things, when I was in your class, last time, you had mentioned something about thinking about, or at least thinking about it, having your kids set up a publishing company for the university.
Here I get one student who says, I'm really interested in setting up a publishing company, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness, we need to do that. There are composers at the university. There are professors who are composing music to get that out. So invariably it doesn't happen by the end of the semester. So I don't know. We're gonna hit you up again for this.
Totally.
I had one student go, I'm interested in that, and so maybe there's something we can do where we could make you, we could ask you to be a mentor. I didn't even think of this.
I'm into that.
Yeah, I mean, so the one thing that I have noticed about Illinois State University is that, especially in the arts technology program, is that our alumni just love mentoring our students, and it's fantastic. And I'm not completely familiar with the School of Music and how it goes, but I'm assuming it's a little bit like the arts technology program, where by the end, after 4 years, these people feel like brothers and sisters who are graduating, and they want to take care of each other, and they see their newborn, siblings coming up too, and they just have so much deep caring for them.
Yeah, the whole College of Fine Arts there fosters a lot of that.
That's great.
That sense of a community within students and alumni, and I think it's been really good for a lot of the for the alumni to, for example, like the School of Theater every year has a trip out to New York. They bring a bunch of students, and they bring the alumni together, and everybody comes together at this on this one night, and have some drinks and talk, and you realize who your connections are, that you both had the same professors, or someone who was in this production that you did work on, and so you end up having all these great connections, and they foster that. And I think that's important for anybody in the arts, is kind of maintaining connections with the school that you came up in, because you can usually find someone out in the world who's doing something that you can kind of hook into, and you can help them, they can help you, and I know that for me, I like giving back to the students at the school. The school did a lot for me, and I'm grateful for that. And then then after I do that, they come up to you and say, you need him to come to the class.
So now I got a question for you. So was there we'll turn the tables here. Was there an alum when you were going to school that, did something amazing for you that like really inspired you?
The focus hadn't really gone there for the school yet. They hadn't, especially in the School of Music, there wasn't as much, there weren't as many people coming back. The School of Theater definitely has a lot of that. And I was kind of hooked in a little bit with the theater. So David Aaron Baker he's an actor. He's been on Broadway a lot. I got to meet him, and he was one of the people I think that really started to give me the idea that you can give back to the places that you like came of age in, and that gave you a lot. And it creates
Yeah.
creates a nice cycle of
Hmm.
helping to teach the next generation.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I've been thinking a lot about mentors lately,
Hmm.
and like gratitude. At the beginning of a school year, I always think about all the teachers that inspired me, and I a lot of times um, I write thank you notes to them, and other
Hmm.
times I write apology letters of apology to them for being a pain in the butt. But I always get, it seems like I get like this at the beginning of the semester, and it's really fun, and it's a healthy thing too to write
Hmm.
a letter of gratitude to somebody that
Hmm.
helped you.
Oh, totally.
I've read that somewhere, that grateful people are happier usually. So
Yeah, and it can also, rekindle that old connection, and
yeah,
give it a new
yeah.
dimension.
Yeah, yeah, and then see what's happening now at the school.
Hmm.
So my task now for my class, for my music business class, is to find enough people, good speakers for them, and they seem to. I think that they love the speakers because
Hmm.
this is only so long that old fuddy duddy punk rock professor can sit here and talk about, go off on tangents about martial arts and stuff, where, it's nice for them to have like people who are actually making a living now in the music
Hmm.
industry, that they feel like, oh, I can do that too. Once in a while, I'll have like one of the guys who runs the record store will come in,
Hmm.
and some of the students will be like, wow, he's just like me. I could do that,
Hmm.
and people who book shows and run festivals and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm worried about I'm very, very concerned right now. Just let's pretend you asked me what my concerns are. I'm very concerned, like extremely concerned, that of the diversity in the speakers that I am bringing. They
Hmm.
all seem to be of the white male genre, and I'm thinking, I have many different colors and genders of people in the class, and
Hmm.
I have to figure out how to service, how to make it so that people can see other people that are doing other
Hmm.
things that kind
Yeah.
of look like them.
Hmm.
So I'm and so then I'm like, well, that's kind of a weird thing, to go out and look for speakers, that are more diverse. That's
Hmm.
strange to me. And then also just the realization that there are not that many, in this tiny small town in the middle of a cornfield, is also worrisome and sad.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking about, and then also like, how do you know, like, if this person's going to be a good speaker, and how do you judge somebody's authenticity,
Hmm.
and how do and it's interesting. I have a speaker that comes in regularly that runs a music, arts, technology, and literary festival. He comes in, and he and I mean, this is an amazing thing that this guy does. And he comes in, and once in a while, when he comes in and he's in a bad mood, and he swears at the students, and the students go, "Oh, he's icky and scary. He swore at us," And I'm like, "Yeah, but he has so much information to give you. But sometimes it's hard to give exactly, I guess, that the it's like there's sort of a feeling that you can get from somebody, that like a
Hmm.
path, and you can understand what motivates them. You can understand their work ethic and stuff, and
Hmm.
maybe that's even better for the students. So
Yeah.
the other concern is, how do I get them to write about their experience, to sort of solidify it, and
Hmm.
get them to understand what they've learned. So that's another thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting. But yeah, I think that's important,
Yeah.
as you're figuring things out. I think, yeah, writing about it can, it if you're writing as though you're writing to someone else, it sort of
Mm-hmm.
becomes teaching in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, I know when I'm writing a piece and I come up against a problem and I'm trying to figure something out, or when I've learned something about what I'm writing, I keep these development diaries, and so I finish writing for the
Yeah.
day, and I sit down and I just sort of like journal it out, and write as sort of as though it's for someone else, and quite often that helps me to work through a problem. And now I understand my problem better, or now I understand this idea that I was trying to get across. That may be of some help, maybe.
That's really, you know, what's really interesting. I was reading here. Check this out. There's an analog to debugging in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, when you're debugging a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and I was actually just reading an article about this too, because I have to have students. Because the other thing that I do is I teach computer programming at ISU.
Oh,
I
nice.
teach computer programming for creatives. In order to debug a problem, sometimes you can pretend that you're explaining it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it forces you, really totally forces you to go through your lines of code,
Mm-hmm.
or your lines of music, and explain them, and really understand what's going on. So I experienced this myself, trying to debug a program. I'd finally get mad and email somebody and go, "Hey, have you ever done it?" And the minute I hit the send, I go, "Oh, I know how to fix it." So the article that I was reading is from an MIT collective that puts out free software. There's really cool software program called Processing and P5JS. And so they're trying to explain to artists how to create code, and they're trying to explain how to debug code. And they suggest having some people even have like an inanimate object that they explain their code to, like a rubber ducky or something like that. So
Nice.
my question to you is, when you write your journals, are you writing to one specific person, or is it just amorphous blab? Or
I'm well, I use, or I'm starting to use my development diaries as like DVD extras in my scores. So
cool.
at the very end, I'll put in you know, I really haven't had the chance to do it yet with a lot of things, but I'll put in excerpts from these diaries, and then maybe some pages of the manuscript, like scans of my handwritten sketches and everything. And so I'm kind of explaining the piece and my problems to whoever buys that score. So it's usually with another musician in mind. Sort of, here's how this happened. Here's how this whole piece came about. And here's, you know, maybe there's some insight that you can glean from that, or maybe it can help you with your own problem later. Like if you're coming across something like this when you're writing or when you're doing something. It's sort of,
so what inspired you to? That's fantastic. What inspired you to do that? Has anybody else ever done that? Or
yeah, it comes from sort of two different places. I mentioned actually a couple of episodes ago. I think did it just come out? I forget. But André Gide, the French novelist, wrote these. He would write diaries as he wrote his novels, and so this one novel in particular that I'm thinking about, The Counterfeiters, it always comes with, or almost always comes with, the diaries published in the back, and so that that always stuck with me. That idea. Then there's like, of course, Ned Rorem's diaries. You know, reading those, you know, great composer, and, you know, talking about everything. But what really got me to do this was these three. I mean, so much as my stuff comes from writers. Three novelists who do they don't do the music publishing podcast. I do the music publishing podcast. They do the self-publishing podcast, which I'm sort of modeled after, and they're the ones who originally like used the term DVD extras for like the way that they like they'll do their journaling, or they'll do a video or something to talk about how they wrote the book and what their thought process was, and listening to them talk about that, I said, that's really fantastic. That's a great way of connecting with, you know, performers or you know, anybody who buys the score.
Yeah. That's. I mean, you're speaking my language, because I mean, you're also making me think of like there's this David Foster Wallace book, Infinite Jest.
Oh yeah,
which is like totally annotated, all the annotations at the bottom, all the footnotes, and I'm going to be writing a book, and I kind of want to model annotations
nice.
after that, because So I think that we're used to starting to think about this because of hypertext. I think that we're so used to being able to branch off now that hypertext is a thing. And I remember before hypertext was a thing. So so I remember when hypertext started being a thing, and I remember having discussions with different people on tour about this, actually.
Nice.
And I so back when my band Poster Children, when we first started touring, well, we were partially into it. In 1994, I started writing diaries and putting them up online. So I started writing diaries too, and they were just about what it was like to travel and stuff. And this was, so I think, I'm not sure what year the blog was invented, but it wasn't in 1994. So we were doing this sort of stuff before it became normal to post your feelings and your day online, and now everybody does it, of course. But it's interesting to try to figure out. So, but I think that you're talking about teaching. You're talking about teaching other people and inspiring other people, and maybe innovation comes from wanting to inspire other people. That's what our band was all about, trying to inspire other people.
Nice.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Or once in a while, somebody will ask us, "What was your best tour story? Or what was your best moment in your rock band?" And you would imagine, I'm imagining that people will say, "Oh, well, one time we played the Fillmore in San Francisco. We did play the Fillmore in San Francisco, and the roadies were so mean." One time we played in front of Public, we opened for Public Enemy. We did open for Public Enemy in Kansas, and the students who were at the show hated us. We were not a rap band. We were like 1,000 white frat boys in Lawrence. I can't remember what city it was, but man, they were really upset. They did not want to see a punk rock band with a girl in it. But our crowning moment, our best moment, we were sitting in a restaurant in Champaign, and we were very sad because our A&R guy had just told us that they want to delay our record, the release of our record. It was like our second or third record on Warner Brothers. I can't remember, second record. And then, so when somebody tells you you're on a major label and somebody tells you, we need to put your record out later because it's a better time. It's not. It's somebody else more important than you is going to be put out that week. So we were dejected, and we were in the middle of recording, which is not a good time to be dejected because you're recording a record. It was terrible. And we were sitting with our heads in our hands at this tiny little restaurant in Urbana, actually, and a guy walked up and said, "Are you Poster Children?" and I looked up and I was like, "Yes." "What is it? What do you want?" It's once in a while, like there are 4 people in the world who know who we are. So this is one of them. And he goes, "Well, I have come here from," I can't remember where he came from another state, from the Southwest, to look at this school, to look at grad school at U of I. "And I can't believe I'm running into you because I stayed in school because this guy used to write fan letters to me and say, I hate school. I hate high school. I want to quit. I want to quit high school." And I would write back, "I want to join a band." I would write back, "Stay in school. Be in a band, do whatever you want, but stay in school, finish high school, please go to college. It's very important. You can do all the music stuff also." And so this guy had stayed in school, had stayed in college, and was looking at grad schools now, and was looking at U of I because that's where we went. That's where Poster Children went. And he couldn't believe that he was there to thank me. And I was at that, I was like, and I think I always say that my guitarist, my partner is going to get really mad because I always say, but he started crying. He was so touched, and that's, whatever. He doesn't want to be known for having, emotions and stuff. He was crying. We were like, Warner Brothers can delay the record. I don't care. That's totally fine. But, we touched this guy and made him want to learn more.
Yeah.
What's better than that?
Yeah, that's
the best
great.
thing that you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
So today is a special day because I have 950 brand new vinyl albums in my basement that I have to insert handmade artwork into. And my helpers the rest of my band has just shown up, and my record label has just shown up to
Nice.
help me.
Nice.
So I'm waving to them.
Nice. Well, uh, then let's, take another like 15 minutes, and I'd like to ask, as you're teaching your students, and it seems like you probably will work with quite a few, since you're working with the School of Music students, probably a fair number of concert musicians. And have you worked with? Have you had a lot of composers come through your classes?
I think that I think so. There are a lot of people who take music composition classes, but I think that they're composition majors, so they may not go that much into the, they may not be required to take the music business class. I think it's an elective for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I will have, I've got my share of people who are going to become famous record producers.
Nice.
That's always, that's like, I'm going to be a famous baseball star. Yeah. Okay, good. You have a baseball? Get cracking.
Yeah.
But if I were to have a lot of classical composers come through my music business class, what might I need to tell them?
Oh, well, I was going to ask what you would, since you have
what would I tell them?
What would you tell them, with the perspective that you have, maybe knowing that composers need to, publish their music and market it somehow, try to secure performances and commissions. From your perspective, what would you encourage them to do?
I would say, what's their goal? Are they, so think about what your goal is first. And it's funny, I had a student yesterday say, well, after I graduate, I'm going to see if we can make it with the band, and then, and then I'll see if I need to find a job. And I said, that's great. How are you going to know if you made it?
Yeah. When
are you going to know if you made it? And he was, and then my grad student said, when he makes a living at it, duh. And I was like, shh, grad student, quiet. Come on. Let the freshman answer.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to travel around the world performing in front of 400 to 100 people? Because then that's a path. Then there are steps to take in order to do that. Do you want to travel around the world playing to 10,000 people? There are different steps to take in order to do that. Do you want your music to be known and played by people, but not necessarily go around, and meet other people? You just want to be prolific and write lots. There's a different path for that, obviously. And that's, I think that's to start writing and get a mentor and have people, shop your music around. So what are the different goals, and what do you want out of life, and that's what I would ask people first, I think.
Yeah.
And then find somebody who's doing that and sort of study their path. I didn't go to school to learn music business. I got lots of different people, drunk on my free beer from my band and listened to them talk. I mean, or I listened to fantastic, amazing mentors who have lots of friends who listen to them. And so you learn a lot. You learn so much by listening to people talk. So that's why your podcast is so important, because you're giving people experience. You're letting people hear people from all over the place and different genres talk. Yeah, that's how you will learn the most.
Yeah, that's one of the big goals here is make sure people can hear a lot of different perspectives. Of course, they're gonna get a big dose of me and my.
But you know what you're but you're a teacher. That's what you're doing, is you're teaching, and you're enabling people to communicate with each other. So that's, maybe you have a certain genre, but I think that you're really good at that, at the teaching part. So can I ask you though, I'm just interested, what are the different goals that a classical music composer could have?
I think for many, it can vary. Some want to I mean, getting commissions is a really big, more commissions, more performances. Those are the the big, continual things that we want to get, and it becomes this cycle of over and over, you know, getting the next commission, fulfilling it, getting paid, and then searching for the next one. So
Mm-hmm.
being to prolific to some degree, or at least consistently producing, and having income from commissions and from performances to support you to be able to do the next thing. So it becomes a cyclical
Right.
process,
Yeah.
and some
And then
want to do it.
also,
Mhm.
is there thoughts of, is there such a thing as selling out? Like somebody has commissioned you to do something that you don't, or there's a possibility of money doing something that you don't want to do?
Yeah, I mean, usually when you do that, and I never I mean, I don't think any of us like the term selling out, but doing that, usually you leave the genre temporarily. You
Ah,
know, if
yeah.
there's the money, a big money for something that other people might poo poo, it's usually because stepped out you've stepped off the lawn. You're
Mm.
somewhere else now, and maybe you're
I
only
love that.
taking you're only like
It's
taking
great.
one step and you're coming back. So doing things like video game music or doing music for film. Some people think that that's selling out, doing commercial music.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's using your skill to do something else. But I think a lot of people do have that fear, and I think some people do hold on to, um, you know, not so much. Some people aren't afraid for themselves. They're afraid for other people that don't sell out. Don't sell out. You don't want to be a sellout. Don't do this. Then
Yeah.
you're not legit anymore. I think that's going away
Yeah, I
as
think you're
things go.
right.
Yeah, as we're
That
now
was
that
a
we're
big thing. That's a big thing in the punk rock genre too. I mean, it's
yeah,
just, it's you can't sell out.
yeah, and I think now with now that style isn't such a big concern in concert music anymore, we don't have these big camps of the academic styles of music versus non-academic uptown downtown type stuff. Now
Mhm.
that that's really, and we've got a whole cross genre thing going in a bunch of different quarters. I think people are more concerned with writing their own music than in um, shitting on other people for theirs.
Well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yes. Stay on your own lawn. Don't see if anybody else stepped off their lawn. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. So that's good to know. That's and are there other? I mean, so when you get commissions, are there different types? I know there's different types of commissions, but are there? Would you perform your music, or I mean, are there some composers that wish to perform their own music, and others that wish for others to play it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's becoming a little more or more typical for composers to have more of an active hand in performance. I think most
Hmm.
um, I think most composers aren't performers, and they're fine with that. They're proficient with one or two instruments, um, and they can do it if they have to, but they're not comfortable performing. They're maybe not proficient enough with the instrument to actually perform with it. But there are more and more composers that do have quite a bit of proficiency and want to perform. Like I do it. Kate Soper does it. Timo Andres does it. God, there's so many. Rena Esmail, lots of composers who do they do perform their own music and music of other people. Some of them, some not, but you know,
Yeah,
it's a path. It's become a genuine path for composers, for some to do
yeah,
that. For me, I'm happy performing my own stuff. I know I'm never going to be, in front of a, a giant concert hall. I'm not going to be like at the front of Carnegie Hall, but like I don't mind. Like it's not appropriate to my career, really.
That's, if only I could find that John Fine quote. I have to, just the no. Wait, do we have time for me to look at it? Can you edit it?
Yeah.
I'll look it
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah. Look it up.
John Fine. Okay, good. Let's see. I went on the internet because it was, yes, Penguin Random House. So it's on his publisher. It says something, at no point at all. Yeah. Okay. At no point at all were any of these bands, quote, ever threatened, even distantly, by actual fame. Never be threatened by actual fame.
Yeah.
Now I got to get back to where you are. There you go.
I like that.
That's the best.
It speaks to the doing it for the love of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being workmanlike, doing the work, getting it done, loving it, and then doing it again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what's fun to me is to be allowed to speak with somebody from a different genre and see all the comparisons that we can have, and then to just bring crazy, pull in little David Foster Wallace and talk about punk rock, and then talk about, I can't think of what else we brought into the conversation, but that's always interesting to me.
Yeah, I think that's how some of my best ideas have come about, and I think it's how most people I know, their best ideas come from outside of what they do. I'm always looking to the book world, and I think some of the most interesting things that I've done or that I want to do come from there. And some people get their best ideas from artists, or from, whomever. If you know, the more people you know, and the more you surround yourself with smart people and talent, the more it all kind of it percolates. You learn things that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yeah,
and
it's fantastic.
It can send you in a whole new fruitful direction.
Yeah. So this is just a missive that students should come to class, be with all of your people there, and listen to them, listen to your mentors, and learn from everybody. And learn. I want to make a T-shirt that says, I was saying, I teach all the things. I was like, oh, should I teach this and this? And then I went, wait a minute, I'll teach all the things. But then I thought, oh, what's even better slogan is learn all the things.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's what you just said. Learn all the things. I have to make a T-shirt like that.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice. Well, we're at the hour mark here. So thank you for being on the show. This has been great. Where can people find you, post your children, anything you've done? Where can they find you online and learn more about you and get in touch with you?
You can, if you Google me, see what happens. But the website has been pared down now because we're getting ready to release this record. So I have almost 10 years of tour diaries that were online that I published while I hand wrote HTML code.
Oh yeah.
From people's floors while I was on tour. We would after a show, I would say in the microphone, does anybody have a floor we could sleep on? And there'd be people who would have floors. And then I would say, do you have an internet connection? Because we need to upload our tour reports. And so really from 1994 to 2002, my tour diary is online, and I'm wanting to make that into a book now. So that's my new project.
Nice.
And to advance the canon of punk rock. So you can always find me on the internet.
Awesome. Well, and we should talk about the book thing. I know a lot about how to do that. I'm happy to help.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Oh, awesome. All right. So, that would be great. Well, I want to contact you and beg you to come and talk in front of my music business class again, since already you've been requested.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. So we'll stick around here,
Great.
and we can talk about it when we go off the air. So I'm going to do a
Okay.
little wrap up here. So everybody, thank you for listening today, and thanks again to Rose. You've been fantastic. Call to action this week, like last week. Check out the Facebook page, hit like. That's when you know when these live events happen. And I'm going to try to share some extra stuff, extra little thing. I know I should only have one call to action, but I'm going to do two. Make sure you get on the Music Publishing Podcast mailing list, because I'm going to start putting out some really fun interviews with guests that you're not going to get here. You're not going to get anywhere else, just there. So do that, musicpublishingpodcast.com. It's easy to find the link to click. So again, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.